All right, guys, welcome back to the show. This is actually episode number 46 already, so like I said, we're closing in on a year. Today, I have another one of my really good friends that I met 6-7 years ago, Rob Treppendahl. The last time we actually seen each other was at a roundtable event in Kansas City. That's the last time we got to hang out, so I'm excited to have you on the show. Appreciate you being here. And you have a lot of stuff going on. Like, I can't even keep up. I thought I was doing a lot until I looked at what you're doing. I'm like, man, this guy's busy too. So you have the Adventure Cure podcast. You and I kind of talked about that. I don't know, maybe a month ago. Maybe it's longer than that. Maybe it's been a few months now. You're doing coaching as well. So we'll talk about that. And then you also have the landscape company still, I assume, right?
Yep.
So yeah, you're just as busy, if not busier than I am. You actually graduated from Ole Miss, right?
That's right.
And you were born in Louisiana, if I remember right.
Yep. Baton Rouge.
Cool. Baton Rouge. But you live in Greenville, South Carolina.
Moved here a month ago. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like every state has a Greenville. Like
there's 33 Greenvilles. Yep.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. So we have a Greenville in Wisconsin that we have an office at, or we service at least. And we have a Greenville, Michigan that we service as well. So when people call them for Greenville, it's like, oh crap, which one, you know? But anyway, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. Like I said earlier, you're probably the best looking guy that we've had on the show so far. So you got that going for you.
Well, thank you. At least I got that.
How you been, man? Welcome to the show again. But yeah, just how you been?
Never better in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
You know, I feel like I've achieved most of the dreams that I've had since I was a kid. And I'm 35. Really? And I'm like, you know, it's a beautiful time where I do have a lot going on social media. It sounds like, you know, a lot of things are written down that I'm working on. But I have a lot of time to do what I want to do. And time with my young kids, time with my family, time to explore this new place where I live. And my mind is free. My time is free. And there's unlimited options right now. And that's a really nice thing. And my health is good. So I'm like celebrating this time. I don't know how long it will last. But I mean, I say that kind of loosely. Hopefully it lasts forever, right? But in this time right now, life is beautiful. And so I'm soaking in every moment.
God, I love that. Take us back to how you got started as an entrepreneur, how you got in the industry, all the struggles that we've all been through, that you've been through, kind of to where and how you got there to where you're at today, just being so peaceful.
I will gladly take you back. So it really starts summer of 2011. I went kayaking down the Mississippi River with two of my best friends. We paddled the whole river. It was a fundraising trip for a couple of ministries. And on that trip, it really increased my level of independence and like my zest for life and that kind of thing. And so after that trip, came back, and my friends and I, who did the trip, we were like, okay, we filmed it all. We're going to make a documentary. We're going to tour the country. And so we can't have like 9-to-5 jobs because we're going to like go on a tour. And so it was like, okay, we have to find an alternative source of income while we prepare for the documentary. So while I was kind of figuring out what to do, my dad said, look, you know, while you're working on the documentary, why don't you run the family tree farm? I was like, family tree? I was like, okay, fine. So it's very small business selling large live oaks with a big tree spade. And it was just a side hobby business. So I started doing that for a little while. And then within 6 or 8 months, we realized the documentary wasn't going to happen for a while. We had bills to pay. Life was happening. We're in our lower 20s. But however, the tree business opened up opportunities for me. I started realizing there's money to be made in the green industry, just probably not with these trees. I shut the farm down and got into landscaping. I didn't know what to do. I got on YouTube. I worked for friends for free. I was just like, I can figure this out. People are asking me for this, for that. I just said, I'll figure it out. And so I got rolling, started doing jobs for people, hiring convicts down the street, whoever I could find who would show up and push a shovel. And I liked it. And there was money to be made. I could clearly see that. And so I shut the farm down, opened Treppendahl Landscape officially May of 2012, and just kind of began growing. I've always been kind of a natural salesperson. I can talk, I can sell things. I didn't know anything about business or employees, but I did know how to promote myself. even if I didn't really know how to do landscaping. I knew how to build trust, and I knew how to get my name out there. So I just started calling everybody who I went to school with, who were their parents, the church directory, all that kind of stuff. And it started building pretty quickly. So do you want to ask a question, or do you want me to keep on a tear?
Keep on rolling.
Okay, so year
I'm
one.
taking notes, by the way.
Okay, year one we do 95,000. So the business started in May to December, 95,000. It gets rolling. I'm excited. Buy a little dingo. I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm cool. I'm like 24, and my friends all are like, most of them are going to grad school, law school, things like that, and I'm the one who's up at 4:30 in the morning, like hustling, working 15-hour days, trying to build the business. And I sort of had this conversation with myself at 24, 25. And I said, Rob, here's the deal. You are going to build this business for 5 years. For 5 years, don't worry about profit. Don't worry about anything except for growth. And then after 5 years, hopefully you can figure out how to make some money. Because in my mind, I'm like, look, I don't have kids yet. I'm young. I don't have all these responsibilities. I can kind of live off beans and rice, be scrappy, and just grow, and make a bunch of mistakes now. I literally sat down and was like, let's do this. And so I stuck to that plan, right? Whether that was the right plan or the wrong plan, that was the mindset I had. It was just all growth related. So the next year we did about 400,000. So it was a good year of growth. There's no real profit to speak of. I'm just growing. I'm buying equipment. I'm hiring the wrong people. I'm learning, but I am growing. I'm building a name for myself to a small degree. And then the next year we did 600,000. And once again, beans and rice, savings, just kind of just getting by. But I thought to myself, if I can hit the $1 million mark, then it'll be good.
Forever.
It'll be changed forever, right? So this is started the business in 12. So 13, 14, we did 600,000. And I'm starting to feel like I kind of know how to do landscaping now. I don't know how to manage people. I don't know how to price things. I don't know a lot, but I do know at least a thing or two about plants at this point. So that's good. And so the year number 4 comes, 2015. This is the year we're going to do it big. And I land this huge hospital project. It's over $300,000, big commercial job, fixing a landscape at a hospital. It's like 17,000 plants, 600 tons of rock. And they called me the kid. I was 26 years old, and they were like, I don't know if you can pull this off. And I was like, just watch. We nailed it, right? We did the project. It went really well. I hired a bunch of people to get the project done. I hired people that ended up kind of taking a mutiny of the company and kind of taking over, which was really weird. There were older people that I needed. There were other landscapers that I brought in. They convinced me to pay them super high salaries and really big commissions on jobs they sold. And it ended up getting me in trouble. I wasn't actually, pretty soon they were kind of running the company, and I was just the salesperson over here on the side. Of course, I still own the company, but I was treated poorly and I didn't know what to do. That was we can go down that rabbit trail if you want to, but
Absolutely.
We can come back to it. But that was a very dark year for me. Also, so 15, revenue jumps from 600,000, it was like 595, to 1.5 million in 1 year. Nearly tripled, right? I get into commercial, and I think that I'm the king of the world because I just pulled off this huge commercial job, and I take out this huge ad in the business report. It's like $4,000 for one page. And I'm like, look at us. We are on the map, Treppendahl. Call us. And I think we're going to take over the commercial construction world for landscaping. And I get real prideful. We buy a house that year. I get married that year. My wife and I buy a house. I put down a big down payment. I'm like, I'm not doing PMI. I'm going to be cool. And so I'm feeling like I'm the king of the world. Meanwhile, the mutiny is slowly happening. Get to the end of the year, 15, no money, none. And I'm like, what? We went way past $1 million. Where's the money? And I'm like, my wife's like, well, you just gave us that huge chunk for the down payment. I was like, yeah, well, I thought we were rich, but we don't have any money in the bank account. And so that was kind of a scary wake up call. And I get the P&L back, and it's negative 67,000. I was like, how is this possible? I thought this was our year. I figured I would have profited a couple $100,000 after, crossing the $1 million mark, doing that huge project. Nope. The debt starts building at this point, right? Because how do you run a company that's got negative income, right? And I wasn't making money for the first 3 years. It's not like I had to retain earnings. So 15, the debt starts coming. Start credit cards and start not being able to pay stuff off. But I don't tell my wife. She doesn't need to know. She just knows that it's not great, but it's not perfect. I'm building a business, right? She's a social worker. 2016 comes. I started getting rid of some of those mutiny guys, start kind of like taking on things for myself, bid a bunch of big commercial projects because I think that I'm the commercial project guy, start winning them, start getting my ass kicked. That project at the hospital was a 1 in a million. That was direct to the owner. There was no contractor to work through. They gave me a big down payment. It was like perfect. All the other ones, I'm working through a horrible GC. I'm getting slow paid. I'm public bidding with all these terrible people, so I have to get my numbers low. It's not going well. Big apartment complex job almost takes me under. Debt. Can't make payroll. I'm borrowing money from my wife's social work salary. She makes $40,000 a year. We just bought this relatively expensive house. The world starts closing in. Like the sky starts closing in. It's not good. Mid 2016. Very painful. Very embarrassing, very shameful. My wife doesn't know how much debt we have. We have a lot. It's growing. She wants to know. I tell her no. In the middle of this, I get one of those phone calls from one of these people says, "Hey, do you want $250,000? I can get," and I was like, Yep. I need it. Yep. It was on deck financial. I think the first one was like 30 or 40,000, right? It was like 40% interest. I took on 2 more of those loans over the next month, just to make cash flow happen. I think I took 140,000 in short-term loans. Of course, didn't tell anybody. Only one person in the world knew besides on deck, and that was my office manager. Didn't tell my wife. Didn't tell anybody. I was like, I can figure this out. I don't want to burden her in our new marriage where I'm supposed to be this successful, business owner, and she's married this guy who's like a successful business owner, and she doesn't know that I'm like failing. Nobody knows. All my friends think I'm killing it. All my friends think that, oh, look at Rob. He's a big business owner with a big diesel truck. Look at him. We're all going to be lawyers, but Rob's killing it already. And I'm driving by and I see guys pushing a lawnmower, and I'm like, I wish I was that guy. Because that guy doesn't have $443,000 worth of debt on him. That guy is not living in shame. That guy is not living in secrecy. I wish I could be that guy. And it's just crushing. Absolutely crushing. I want to tell my wife, but I'm like, she's going to be mad. She's like basically Dave Ramsey, and it's not going to go well. Yeah. And so I'm just like, you know what? Grin and bear it. I'll figure it out. I'll just work harder and work longer. And like, I'm one big project away from like the breakthrough. I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. But this payments start coming in on deck, and I start paying them off daily. I don't know if you ever taken one of those loans. It's horrible. It's criminal. Don't ever do it. Anybody listening, don't do it. So I call my father. I'm like, Dad, I need help. He'd always told me, Rob, run your own business, do your thing, take it to the moon. I'll bail you out if you're in trouble. I said, Dad, I need you to bail me out. He has his own business. Our whole family, everybody's an entrepreneur, so it's kind of in the blood. And so he says, how much you need? I said, $140,000. No problem. He writes me a check the next day. And I pay off the loans. Of course, I thought I'd be able to it wouldn't be too bad, but actually they take all the interest on the front. So it was a horrible deal. Lost so much money on that. Paid off the loans. Now I owe my dad money, which is okay. I'd rather owe my dad money than the other guys. And so now my wife knows I've taken money from my father. She doesn't know how much it is. And she wants to know. She's begging me. I won't tell her. So it's 2016. Paid off the loans. Now I'm working with my dad. Business is still struggling big time. But I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe we can make it out. Maybe we can still have $440,000 in debt. It's just not to the loan sharks anymore. Still have it to lots of other parties. Business is still losing money. Still borrowing money from my wife's social work salary. Still barely able to pay for our mortgage. Still mired in shame. And Ewing Irrigation, who you may know about, the regional supplier of irrigation, says, right, Rob, you want to go on a free trip to Talladega? I was like, Megan, you want to go to Talladega? She says, hell yeah, free trip. Love to. We don't have any money. And so we go. It's in October. And we have a great time. And Megan introduces me to Garrett Matthews. And Megan sits next to him. Garrett, a lot of you may know Garrett. Meet him. He's there as well. Garrett basically told Megan his business story. Then he tells it to me. And then Megan's like, Rob, you got to talk to this guy. So I talked to him. I kind of share loosely what's going on with me. She's like, listen to everything he says. Do whatever he says. Honey, we're in trouble. Of course, she has no idea how much trouble we're in. but we are in trouble. She knows that we're struggling. She knows that I'm working 90 hours a week, falling asleep at the dinner table when we have friends over at 8 o'clock, And so I started listening to Garrett. I tell you what, I skipped a part. Let me backtrack about 3 months. 3 months before that, it's June 2016. In the middle of all this stuff, before my dad loaned me the money, we're driving to the beach on a much needed vacation with some friends. Megan looks at me and says, Rob, listen, this is not working out. We're struggling. You're working all the time. You need to have a plan because this is not sustainable. We want to have a family. We want to have kids. And she's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, give me a year. Give me 1 year to figure things out. I've been in this business for 4 years now. Now we're married. I thought I would be, I thought I kind of would have turned the corner by now. Give me 1 year to figure things out. If not, I'll sell the business for whatever it's worth and I'll go throw in the towel and work for the man. She says, okay, 1 year. So the clock's ticking. So 3 months into the clock ticking, could go back to meeting Garrett. And I'm like, oh, this could be my ticket out. So meet Garrett. And then he gives me some advice, gives me some tips. Said, look, bro, I'll help you out. People help me out. I'll help you out. And if you just listen to what I say, you can probably get out of the situation. So I go see him a few months later in Shreveport, drive up. He lives about 4 or 5 hours north of me. Show him my numbers, everything. He says, Rob, it's way worse than I thought. He's like, you can still make it out, but it's going to be hard. So he says, you got to fire these people. You got to sell all your fancy trucks. You got to get rid of all this expensive stuff. Focus on really simple stuff. Get rid of all those stupid commercial projects that you're doing. Call those guys that you won those $3,000 projects for that they haven't started yet and say, Rob, and tell them you're out. Call all the people you owe money to and say, it's going to be a while. So I did. I listened to Garrett. I did all that stuff. It was very painful, but less painful than being in a business that was failing. So I listen to Garrett, call him every week. Hey, Rob, remember, we're playing chess, not checkers. This is the long game, brother. Okay. Make those hard calls. Okay. So I stayed the course. And that year, 17, was the first year we turned a profit ever. Like things turn around pretty quickly. We had our first kid that September. The month that she was born was the first month I was ever able to pay the bills. My wife was able to quit her job 3 days before we had the baby. And it was like that year, I just gradually was able to pay ourselves a little bit more. It was unbelievable. We prayed so much about it. And like the breakthrough happened and we were like, okay, we're going to make it. Of course, Megan could have kept her job and gone back to it. But we were hoping and praying that the business could finally support us. We still had the debt. Megan talked me into telling her how much it was. Then she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. It's okay. It was a hard conversation. She made us go see a debt counselor. We did all that. We started paying it off. Over the next few years, I stayed the course. Converted the company into a landscape maintenance, machine, and figured out Facebook and Google and all those fun things, and just totally changed the direction of the company. The revenue stayed kind of flat for a few years because I stopped worrying about revenue, started worrying about profit. We started adding 300, 400, 500, 600 clients a year. And so that was 17, the year of the big change. Fast forward, 2023. I just moved 700 miles away from the office. I got an amazing leadership team running the show. And I have time to do whatever I want. And I check in with them on Wednesdays. So I know I skipped 6 years right there. And you feel free to ask me anything you want about any time period there. We just covered 12 years. But essentially from that process of like, I'm going to change the business to now has been just a very consistent pattern of me staying the course with putting good systems and people in place to get me where I am now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a story, and everyone needs a comeback story. But business is hard, right? We've all been through those hard times. Maybe not quite that hard, but we've all been through some hard shit. Maybe some people that listen to have been through worse or going through that right now that can learn from you. Take me to where you start building the leadership team, and then how you came to the decision why to move 7 hours away and how you got there. That's very valuable too, because I think you built a great leadership team that you don't have to be around. Good for you. And then I'll ask a second question. Was it, now that you're gone from the business, you're not there every day, do you feel that pain of not being there? Do you feel guilty at all?
Let me answer that one first, and then we'll go to the other one, because that one's the easier answer. I don't feel the pain. I don't feel the pain because I waited until the right time. right? I feel very good about the move. It's been 5 weeks. We moved August 1st. It's September. This is being filmed September 7th. I feel very good about it. My business is in really good hands. I'm going back next week for the first time. I will plan to go back on roughly a 6 to 8 week cadence. But Wednesdays, I have a scorecard meeting with my team for 90 minutes every Wednesday. And I'm kind of on call with them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, mainly Wednesdays. But I'm still involved in the business. They can call me, they can text me, whatever. I'm available. I have a little office here, here in South Carolina, but it's at home. And my office hours are when my kids are in school, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 to 3, right? Those are the hours that I dedicate to any type of work. Landscaping specifically is on Wednesdays. 9 to 3 is kind of my commitment-ish, but sometimes there's a workout in there. But yes, I feel very good about the move. I'm very happy about it. And in fact, I remember telling my parents about it, and they live, in my hometown. They were like, I think you'd be foolish if you didn't. You're in a very rare opportunity in your life right now with your business and and like everything that you've built. They're like, you'd be crazy to not go try this. So I appreciated that encouragement.
Yeah, that's great. Your parents sound amazing. I came back from an event, and what Patrick said is that there's 3 qualities of people who do great things in life. One is that they have someone who loves them, or someone who had loved them or who loves them unconditionally. They've felt a great deal of pain in the past. And then the third one was, can't remember what it is off the top of my head because I'm thinking about so many things going on in my head right now because I want to ask the next question. Like, what was the purpose of you moving to South Carolina?
It's a great question. And by the way, I felt a great deal of pain. A lot of it I haven't discussed here, but I totally agree. To experience immense personal growth, one must go through immense personal pain. Right. So the main reason, my wife and I have different reasons, but they aligned for, yes, we want to move. My main reasons were honestly more things to do on the weekends. It sounds like it's such a silly thing to do, but I've got young kids, right? 1, 4, and 6, the girls. And I find in Baton Rouge, where I grew up, it's nothing wrong with Baton Rouge, but it's deathly hot 4 months out of the year. And then the winters are okay. They're kind of mild. And there's not really a fall. It's just really 2 seasons. It's hot or it's like kind of cold and rainy. And 4 months of the year, you're stuck inside, right? Our kids what are we doing? Watching Netflix. And and basically our life, it felt like, was watching Netflix and go and watching LSU football games and going tailgating once a year and hanging out with family and friends, which is fine. And a lot of people, that's enough. For me, it wasn't. I love outdoor stuff. I love trout fishing, fly fishing in the mountains. I love hiking, backpacking. I like waterfalls and seeing beautiful sights and having the weather that's good enough to enjoy. And my kids love that stuff too. I love, love, love being outside. My wife and I are both like that. And so we always travel to all these amazing places. I mean, we spent a month last summer in Central California. The year before, we spent a month in Hawaii in February. And so we've done all these travels, and we always find ourselves traveling to all these cool places and doing all these outdoor events in these beautiful places. And we were like, how come we have to escape our hometown to do things that we really love? And then we come home and we're like, damn, sucks being home. And I don't want to crap on Baton Rouge. I don't want to crap on my life there. My life there was good. Jonas, it was a good life. But when you get to a point in your business where you don't have to be at the office every day, and when you have time to travel to a lot of other beautiful places, eventually you think to yourself, why don't I live in one of those places that I love to go to? Like, the question starts to come up of like, what if we did? What if we could? And so lifestyle is the real question. Is the real answer is awesome. I wanted a better lifestyle. I mean, sure, there's a million other things too. Like, there's better education for the kids, more opportunities for them. It's just a more beautiful place. There's less crime. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons why. Yep. But my number one reason is just lifestyle.
Great. Because I have that same scenario that where I live. Like, I travel all the time. I'm big cities, and I love the hustle and bustle of downtown, like Dallas or whatever, and I see all the money there, like all the opportunities, and then I come back home to this small town, and like I drive in town, I get depressed. I'm like, man, I just don't love living here. But my oldest daughter's with someone else, so I have a few more years till I can pick up the young kids and leave, So that's going to be in my future too. And then a few weeks ago, I was talking to Jonathan, and this is like the first year, we created our business too. We opened up, a few more markets. So just a lot going on in the last few years, but this is the first year again where I was like, I don't have to be at the office every day. Like I started almost feeling guilty. Like, wow, I'm not there. And so I asked Jonathan, is that normal? He's like, yeah, it's totally normal. He's like, but this is how you built the business, and this is how you know you built it the right way. I'm like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So it just kind of comes full circle back to your story of like you wanting to move and like me wanting to move at the same time, but I just can't. So in a few years I'll be there. The third thing was that I couldn't remember at first was that they chose their enemies wisely. An enemy that pushed them really hard to get to the next level. It brought out the best in them per se. That was the third thing that I can remember at the time, but just hit the top of my head.
Good to know.
And then when you're building your leadership team, going back to that, what was your first hire? And then was second, third, and fourth hire to where you built that step away?
Good question. So internal leadership team, I take from EOS Traction, which I follow very closely in my business.
Us too.
So I'll take you back. Like my first non-revenue producing employee, right, was an office person. I won't name her. She did a good job. She wasn't necessarily a leadership team member because I didn't even know that terminology or even have that sort of mindset. But I had my first office person in 2015, and she did a good job. And it was basically me and her and then all the guys. And she would, answer the phone. She would do billing, that kind of stuff. The company grew, and it outgrew her at some point. At some point, she couldn't hang, right? She just couldn't adapt to the technology. She wasn't what we needed long term. Wonderful person. The most painful conversation ever, firing her. I mean, I felt like I don't know. It was horrible. It was a very, very painful
How many times
situation.
have you been told that the people who got you to your first million won't be the person who gave you the 5?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely true. So it was like shooting a horse. Okay, that's the technology. That's the metaphor I'll use. It was horrible. Anyway, when I replaced her with Callie, who's with me now, which happened 4 years and 1 month and 7 days ago. So August 1st of 2019 is when Callie was hired. That was the beginning of a radical shift in the company, right? I found the right person. I knew within 5 minutes. I interviewed her offsite, obviously, and we had a Starbucks, and it was this kind of thing where it was like, oh my gosh, this person's going to change the company. You know what I mean? It was like I'd been building this thing for a while. We'd already made our big switch into different types of maintenance and that kind of stuff. But I was like, I need someone who can really steer the ship and not just be an office person. Someone who can like lead and manage and like be me when I'm not there, but better than me and more organized and more data driven. And I was like, I just literally within 5 minutes. She told me later she knew within 5 minutes too that it was a good job for her. And it was just like we just clicked. And so she was really the beginning of my leadership team. And then I've been slowly building it ever since then. Now there's 6 on the leadership team. So you could count me as number 7. And so Callie is the integrator. If we're going to go EOS terms, I'm the visionary. And then I've got, my other roles within that. So over the course of time, I just added more people to it. And, a lot of the folks, the men who have joined the leadership team have all risen through the ranks. The women, the females have been recruited to join the leadership team, but the males have all risen up through, started in the labor pool, and then moved up into management and leadership. That's kind of how it's gone, which is probably pretty typical in landscape.
For sure. When we were at Jason Cup's roundtable event, I think you were just coming out of this, if I remember right. And you I think maybe a year or two after, you're really changing the business model, but you're doing landscape install, but then what services do you guys offer now?
Great question. Yeah. So with that roundtable, you probably recall, was the day before COVID started. So it finished on March 12th, 2020. So funny the time. I remember getting home. We were all talking about COVID. And we're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And and the next day the world was like, it's a pandemic. It's an epidemic. We're like, oh my gosh, what does that even mean? All right. So I'd hired Callie like 6 months before that. So that was in August of 16. So you are 19. So we hung out last in March of 2020. So yeah, I was in the middle of the transition. The services that I provide now, it's all residential. I have a handful of commercial clients because they're like people that I like and they'll put a card on file and they pay well, that kind of stuff. But I'm not actively looking for that. It's all residential, fertilization, weed control, projects like, mostly like $2,000 to $15,000 projects, upgrades, you could call them, enhancements, I guess, cleanups, weed trim mulch, and then quarterly flower bed maintenance. Those are the main services that we provide.
That's awesome. And you were at Cup's event to get numbers on those services to go back and say, hey, these are the numbers that we have to hit. That's really cool. What is the revenue split of the company? Not in per se numbers, but percentages, like from maintenance to FERT to install.
50% FERT
upgrades.
Yeah,
Nice.
50% FERT, which we didn't start that until 2017. That was kind of part of the transformation. So 50% FERT, and then I'd say 40% is enhancements, and then 10% is going to be like bed maintenance. That's probably
Cool.
roughly
And
the
do
split.
you do any mowing at all?
We have a mower to service our handful of commercial accounts. That's it. Well, I had several hundred residential mowing accounts, but I no longer have them by choice.
Nice. And then is Garrett the one who didn't introduce you to Service Autopilot? Or were you already using that
Yes,
before?
Garrett. Yeah, Garrett definitely introduced me to it. Mm-hmm.
So just by fate, you met Garrett through Ewing.
Yes, at Talladega. Yes, just by fate.
Yeah, and Garrett's been on here. He's an absolute stud of a guy. So, I mean, it couldn't have happened to a better person. Like, you guys are great people. Like, what are the odds, though?
It's pretty amazing. I would say meeting Garrett is one of the most life-changing experiences I have ever had.
Shout out to you, Garrett. I appreciate you.
Yep.
Let's kind of switch a little bit because, I don't want to waste the whole time. I mean, I kind of want to get into what you're doing now. Like, now that you're, like, recreating yourself again, which is super awesome. Yeah, you created the coaching thing. Tell me about that. Like, I seen you post on your Facebook today, like, you got your first review or something from a coaching client.
Yep.
That was really awesome. I read that. That was pretty cool.
Thank you. So I think naturally a lot of people, whenever they finally, develop a skill and they feel like they're good at it, the next step is helping other people, right? This is the 12 steps with AA or anything else, right? So It's a very natural progression. Whenever you've gone through a journey and you feel like you've had success, you want to help other people through that journey, whether that's professionally or personally or whatever.
Because we were the ones who needed help.
We were the ones who needed help.
We know that there's thousands and thousands of companies that need help. That's what they're there to just help them.
Exactly. Yeah. So going through that struggle gives you the humility and the awareness of what others have gone through, and now you have the experience to help them. And so, Garrett was one cog in the wheel, right? He was a very important person that helped. I also engaged with people in things like the Alternative Board and Vistage and mastermind groups. So I did a lot of different things to surround myself with people who were wiser and more experienced than I was in business and landscaping, all sorts of things. And so for me, I always wanted to eventually help other people with their businesses. And probably about 4 years ago, when people kind of peers started realizing okay, Rob, you're actually doing decent at this. People started like messaging me on Facebook and whatever, because I'm in these Service Autopilot groups or what. And the way that you comment on something, hey, somebody has a problem, you comment something, people are like, oh damn, like this guy knows what he's talking about. So probably for the past 3 or 4 years, people have been like Facebook messaging me and calling me and texting me, hey Rob, how does this work? And what do you think about this? It's just kind of happened naturally. And I was like, you know what? When I have time, then maybe I'll turn this into a little side business. I don't need it to be huge. I don't need it to be my main source of income, but it'd be nice to turn it into something legit and try to provide value. And I'm 35 and I'm looking at the next, hopefully 40, 50 years of my life. I don't know how long I'll live. And what I want to make sure of is that I'm using the talents and time that I've been given wisely. And so, I thought for a long time, what do I do? How do I make a difference? Is it writing a book? Do I need to start a nonprofit? Do I need to do this? All these, our generation, right? We're all about changing the world, all about making a difference. And so, which a lot of it's good. Sometimes it can be, it can send you down a path that's kind of fruitless, but oftentimes it's with a good heart. So I realized, you know what? My why for the rest of my life is probably helping other business owners. I'm good at it. I like it. And I've been down the road. So that's kind of my why behind it. I officially launched this like 2 months ago. I did like some online coaching training, which wasn't necessary. I just went through the process. I'm actually a certified life coach, which is hilarious. It was a prerequisite to become a certified executive coach with this thing that I chose, which is so silly. It's not silly. Life coaches are great. But I'm not going to offer that service, but it's kind of baked in. So if you get me for the executive coaching, I will coach your life too. But anyway, I officially, I think, created a website a couple months ago. And
what is that website?
It's robtreppendahl.com.
Nice.
So ROBTREPPENDAHL.com. So I have
put
a
that in
podcast
a link for you too.
Yeah, thank you. I have a podcast that's unrelated to that, but it's also hosted on there. The podcast is more about interviewing people about life-changing experiences. I mean, it's all the same, right? All of it has to do with living your life with meaning and purpose and choosing the way that you spend your time. And so the coaching is directly involved with helping business owners, especially service business owners who are struggling, who are stuck, and they want to know the way out. I mean, the short thing, my short little spiel is I used to work 90 hours a week and now I work 4, right? And so I can help other people get there, or at least get closer to 4. The 4 number was straight from Tim Ferriss. I read his book 4 Hour Work Week in 2009. I was like, how do we do that? Not in 2009. That's when it came out. Read it in 2015. And so the idea of, I see a lot of business owners that grow these, if they do well, they grow these big businesses, right? 10, 20 million, whatever. But it seems like they're not happy, and they're on their 4th spouse and this and that. Their kids don't know them. It's like, that's not success to me, right? And then you have other people who are working 80, 90 hours a week, and maybe they have their relationships, but their life is still not very fulfilling because they're always working. But there's got to be a different way to get out of this thing. There's got to be a different way to make it through life, to be a business owner and to have great relationships and to have satisfaction in your life and to have time. Like I want to have, that the center of that Venn diagram. Life is good. You enjoy it. Your relationships are strong. You have money. You're a business owner. Those kinds of things, or not necessarily money, but at least you have purchasing power and you can buy what you want. So if you can find the intersection of all those things, I think life can be really, really good because you have options. And so I find myself in the center of that Venn diagram right now, and it's like lightning in a bottle, and I'm like, okay, I want to share this lightning. How do I help other people, experience this? And so that's where I am. That's what I'm doing, and it's very enjoyable. I will say that.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the process like? Do they, does the first thing you look at their financials and you kind of say, this is where we're going to start, or what does that look like?
Discovery call. So first thing is people, they can click on the website, hey, book a 20-minute call, Rob. People can make an appointment with me. We'll talk on the phone. And so there's no commitment there. It's just like, hey, I want to tell them how the program works. I want to learn about their business. And basically after that phone call, they can decide, do I want to move forward, or did I just get, some really good feedback from Rob and maybe I can take that and grow the business. Mm-hmm. And so no commitment, no pressure there. But, that phone call, which says 20 minutes, usually turns into 30 or 45 because people have a million questions and I'm an open book, right? So primarily I'm working with landscapers, although I have some prospective clients that are in other service industries, but that's how it works. Discovery call, we learn about your business. I don't have like financial requirements. If you have to have X number to work with me, right?
Yeah.
Anybody who's willing to pay the small fee that it costs to work with me can be a client. I think it probably will work best if you're at least at $500,000 in revenue and got a few employees. For a solopreneur, I don't think I'll be able to help you that much, and you might not be able to afford a coach. But if you can, then heck yeah.
Can you? Well, I'll ask that question, or a rhetorical question. Like, can they afford not to hire a coach? Probably
not. The cost of a coach like me who's new and getting started is far less than a lot of those things that I've engaged in. And having a coach, and if you don't have a coach, at least have a mentor, right? At least have somebody in your industry who can walk with you through the challenges that you're in. You do need to have some type of mentor or coach, no matter what industry you're in. You've got to have somebody who's been there who can be like, bad idea. Or, dude, that's a huge opportunity. Go for that. Turn off everything else and go big on that. So 100%, everybody needs a mentor or a coach. If you can afford a coach, which they're much cheaper than you'd think often, you should definitely get one. And because the sky's the limit. And it's just a matter of, it might take you 10 or 15 years to learn some of the things that I've learned. It took me about 20,000 hours, right? But I can translate those things to you in a much shorter amount of time and avoid a lot of pain, as most coaches can, right? It's about avoiding pain and gaining pleasure. So if you're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week and you're like, how the hell do I get out of this? How come I don't have time with my family? Well, there's probably a few important things you can change in your business right now that can change things really quickly. A lot of these changes can happen faster than you think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the old adage goes like, people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 5.
Yes.
So just stay in the course. You put your head down and going to work on that.
Stay the course,
2 or 3
brother.
things. Just stay the course. Agreed.
Stay the course.
I had this question come in through an email the other day, and I think you'd be a great person because you talked about it. What advice did you give someone trying to build a strong professional network within your industry?
Oh, man. Yeah. So the first advice I would say is Facebook, man. There's so many great Facebook groups. I'm in like 10 in the green industry. Those groups are so great. I'm in one called PLA, Professional Lawn Applicators. It's awesome, right? So I would start off there. It's the easiest way to start networking with industry professionals is getting on with Facebook groups. A lot of these have 2,000 or 3,000 members. Most people are really willing to help and share. And then oftentimes you can be like, hey, bro, will you shoot me a message? And then all of a sudden, phone call. Then I got buddies all over the country now, just from that Facebook group, who I can call anytime. Guys in Florida, guys in Michigan, guys here, guys there. I can be like, bro, what do you think about this problem? Whether it's how do I kill this weed, or like, what would you do in this situation? That is a helpful way to network, joining those groups. So also, of course, if you're using a software that has a conference, I would recommend going, Service Autopilot, Real Green, whatever. So I'll say the power of networking within your industry is really important. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, competitors. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily become super tight with your direct competitors if you offer the exact same thing in the same area. Although, I mean, knock yourself out. But you can share more freely with someone who is in the same industry, but not the same market. I would say go for it. It's super helpful. That's how to do it.
It was a great answer. Next question. It's a follow-up question that it's the same person. And what skills and qualities do you believe are crucial for professionals looking to excel in your industry?
One thing is you have to have the ability and willingness to take risk, right? You have to have a tolerance for risk, but it has to be coupled with the ability to calculate risk, right? So if you're just all balls, if you're just all, risk taking, but you don't have the ability to analyze and look at numbers and like make a proper decision, that's a really bad mix, right? So I would say, risk tolerance mixed with the ability to analyze data. I'd say that's really important. Number 2, the ability to sell yourself, the ability to believe in who you are and what you do, and to build trust with other people. Even if you're not as good as you'd like to be, just trusting that you're good enough where you are to be able to grow yourself and your business, and know that if you keep investing in yourself, you'll become the version of yourself that you want to be, and trusting the process. So I don't know. There's a couple of things that come to mind.
Yeah, that's great. It brings up another story of the conference that I was at. Someone asked Mike Tyson a question, like back in the day, what was his mindset? Like how he got through it all. His response was crazy. Like it was just who he is. He's like, because I'm a fucking savage. That's just how he sees himself still. It's like, man, like that's how he thought the whole time. But when he first met his trainer, he didn't think that way. But his trainer is the one who instilled that thought process in his head. Like, why do you say it that way? No, you are the best. You're going to be the best. You're the greatest of all time. Like, you're the savage. Like, he instilled his mindset and belief into Mike Tyson, which is the craziest thing ever. But to this day, Mike Tyson said, because I'm a fucking savage. Like, that's his response.
Sure.
So just having that mindset.
Oh, the mindset's everything, right? Believing.
It's the one biggest thing that most of us have as entrepreneurs.
So this reminds me, have you read Good to Great?
Yeah, fantastic.
So remember
Jim
the Stockdale,
Collins.
Stockdale paradox, right? So for anybody who's not familiar with this reminds me of that. I think his name was Jim, maybe Stockdale.
Yeah.
He was a prisoner of war. I think it was World War II, and he was captured. And he was like taken. I mean, it's kind of like the Unbroken story, where he was a POW for many, many years, and basically people asked, and a lot of guys died as a POW. They gave up morale, and people asked him, who were the people that died? He said, it was the optimists actually who died. The guys who said, we're going to be out by Christmas. We're going to be out by this. He said, no. Here's the key to survival. This is how I survived for 7 years in a POW camp.
Paranoid.
Yeah. He said, look, you have to, one, be able to confront the brutal facts of what's in front of you, but also believe that in the end, you will prevail, right? So that is the Stockdale paradox. It's a beautiful thing. I think that's very imperative for an entrepreneur, right? Believe that you will prevail, but don't be blinded by what is right in front of you. You must have the ability to confront the brutal facts right now as they are, which means you might have to stop cutting grass. You might have to stop doing this, doing that, whatever. Realize that what's happening, but also believe in the end, I will prevail. Which may even sound delusional at sometimes. For me, the act that I would prevail when I was in such dire straits and, $400,000 in debt and hiding from my wife, like what? But I still had this belief of like, somehow, some way, I'm going to make it through. And if I just given up, which could have, I would never have realized the benefits that I'm in now, which like I never thought in my life that I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I thought maybe it'd be like age 55 or 60, but like I was able to push through that and make it through that really hard time. And now it's beautiful, but you got to push through. So that's my note on that.
But like put yourself back to like you're 24, 25 years old in 2012. Like, did you dream of where you're at today then?
No, I didn't know that this was possible. No, I didn't. This level of freedom, I didn't even know existed. When I got the idea for this was probably 4 years later when I read that book, 4 Hour Workweek, and I was like, oh, that's what success looks like. That's how I define it, right? The title of that book is, it's 4 Hour Workweek, how to ditch the 9 to 5 and join the new rich. And what Tim Ferriss defines as the new rich is the ones that are free of their time. And so when I read that, for a while, I was just trying to build a company to have some freedom, but like build a business that I wouldn't have to go to every day. But Tim Ferriss is like, no. Build something and automate it so you can do whatever the hell you want. And I was like, oh, that's when that vision got planted. And I was like, that's a much higher vision than I had. And I was like, and it was also more inspiring, right? So if you don't have a really inspiring vision to go towards, it's hard to push through those hard times. But if you're like, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get to that place, and that place is going to be satisfying, then you can push through.
Yeah, I look like we started US probably, 4 or 5 years ago. And looking back to like what our goals were back 4 or 5 years ago and like where we're at today, it's like, man, we crushed those things. Like they're not even we exceeded our goals like by 10 times. So every year leveling up and like your mindset just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. When you're growing the company though, you're in Baton Rouge, not a super big town. How were you marketing back then? Like I used to Facebook, Google, things like that. But anything outside of like the traditional marketing style that really, really worked well for you guys?
Facebook was really the Clydesdale. Probably 80% of my ad spend was on Facebook. Google was a second distance. I mean, and just some time on Nextdoor, right? Like just being a good neighbor on Nextdoor. I mean, my style for marketing. So the answer is no. There wasn't really anything super effective outside of Facebook and Google. But I think my overall approach to marketing is something I learned from Garrett and also from Gary Vaynerchuk, which is be super helpful, right? Yep. Don't be salesy. Just give away the value, give away your secrets, give away your tips. And so you can build two things in the eyes of the public: trust and expertise, right? Okay, Rob's a nice guy and he knows what he's talking about. Yep. And put your team on there and have them say, oh, wow, he's got a good team and they know what they're talking about too. And so by taking that approach, it doesn't matter what tool you're releasing that content in, but just having that approach of like helpful first. I'm going to help you, whether you're my client or just a stranger. I'm going to help you. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And then your goodwill in our community is going to build my reputation. And it's sort of this long game of like, I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to invest in people. I'm going to give away my tips. And then knowing that like, if you keep doing that long enough, and of course, if you're spending some money behind it, it will come around and people will trust you and you can build a really good brand.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now you have your leadership team built and like you have a marketing machine built. Are you still over any of those? Or do you have zero roles in the company at all other than the visionary?
I'm still somewhat involved in the marketing. I look at our ads and change the copy a little bit, or I'll call my marketing person. I'll be like, hey, look, this copy is a little weird. Can you change that? I don't actually actively do it per se, like things like that, but I am involved in them. And then I'll still shoot videos. I'll still shoot, hey, this is Rob. This is what you need to be working on. I haven't done one since I've been up here. I'm actually planning on shooting one soon, and try to make it look like Baton Rouge, because we have some similar grass types. So yeah, I'm still over that stuff. And then, I'm not like too cool or too busy for any of it. Right.
Yeah. Right.
My team still probably shoot me, 7 or 8 texts a day and a couple of emails. Hey, I might get emails like, what kind of weed is this? I'll be like, oh, that's that. You know what I mean? So right, I'm not like this absent, silent business owner. It's like there's things that I have to do every week. And then there's things that I choose to do and can do. And the things that I have to do is like, 2-3 hours. Things that I choose to and can do, probably another 4 or 5. And so, but like here, I'll be honest, this summer, before I moved, dude, I had to hire a new person for a leadership role position. I was in the office every day, 4 or 5 days a week, like burning it. So like, I'm not too good for that stuff. I'm not over it. I'm not like, oh, look at Rob, he's arrived. No. Like I'll do whatever it takes. I just realized at this point in my career, whether I'm spending 5 or 20 or 30 hours a week, it's not going to move the needle that much because I've built a system over here that operates well without me. Sometimes I can be too involved, right? And I kind of get in the way of the systems I've created. And my team's like, whoa, Rob, that's not, you set us free to do that. Why are you getting in the way? So I could actually mess up my company by getting too involved.
Yep, same here.
So that, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. If there was 2 skills that you wish you would have learned earlier, or maybe 2 things you wish you would have known earlier in business, maybe outside of like the not doing construction, but what are 2 skills that you wish you would have had that people could learn from that maybe just starting out?
How to find and keep really good people.
What's the answer to that?
The answer, man, I have a decent read on it now. I will say it's really hard to see past your, like what I would call interview bias of like someone interviews well and you're like, oh, and you like them, you connect to them as a person, but like not doing your homework and put them through a personality test and checking their references and doing all that homework. So I'd say like learning how to find really good people, is something I wish that I had learned earlier, because it could have saved me a lot of trouble. Because I hired too quickly in the past and didn't do my homework, and it could have gone better. Mm-hmm. So that's one.
The second part of that question is how to retain them.
Yeah. So what I've learned and what I wish I'd done before is pay people as much as you possibly can, give them very clear expectations, and give them a piece of the pie. So people want to have upside. They want to know if I work really hard, I'm going to get rewarded directly for that. So like my leadership team, we do profit sharing, like they get a piece of the pie. It's an open book company. My leadership team knows exactly how much money we bring in, revenue, profit, the whole deal. That some people are scared to do that. And not everybody can be trusted with those numbers, right? I don't share that with the whole company, because some people it would cause a problem. But I trust my people and I invest in them. And so, I'd say that's how to keep them too.
Yeah, I can agree more. And then we started doing profit share about 2 years ago. Same thing, open book concept. Like, this is what we make, this is what we do. The better you guys get, more efficient we get. Like, you hit these numbers, this is what you're going to get in return. So
it's beautiful.
One of the best moves we ever made too. And then along with that would be the pay for performance model. Like, no one's on hourly anymore. It's all pay for performance, so they can kind of see what they make, and then they get a piece of the profit too. So the higher performance they make, a little bit of profit share they get too.
We do a hybrid version of that, but yeah.
Nice. What does that look like?
So this is mainly for the FERT guys.
Yeah.
But they get an hourly rate, and then they get, if they hit their 2-week revenue goals, they get like 1% of the revenue. If they exceed it by 1,000, then they get 2%. If they exceed it by like 2,000 or 3,000, then they get 3%. So it's sort of like they have a guaranteed amount of money they're gonna make per hour. But if they really excel, they get they get a nice little piece of it. I've been scared to do P for P directly because I didn't want corners to be cut. And I'm sure you and I could talk off the record and figure a good system that keeps them from cutting corners that sort of like is a catch-all, essentially. Like, oh, you have to go back. I just was scared they would cut corners.
For sure. And I do like your model a lot. But now I have a question. Like, so scheduling wise, like, can they say, hey, add more jobs to me? Or do you say, this is you're out for the next 2 weeks and here's some extra? How do you do that?
We load them up pretty hard. And if they hit everything we schedule them for, they're going to make a nice bonus every single time.
Gotcha. So how often do they not hit their bonus? And because the way I'm thinking about it, like, say this person's on the schedule, but if they don't get done, now you have to reschedule and put them on the next day. Now your customer seems to be upset maybe because you didn't show up. Or do you guys schedule it for the week and say, hey, we'll be out there this week? What does that look like too?
We schedule daily. So we're gonna move things. I mean, really, it's one day at a time. So if they don't get them to that day, we'll move them to the next day. Customers don't really like that, but we don't lay out a whole week because there's too many variables, weather, equipment, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how that works. But yeah, it's just one day at a time. We dispatch in the afternoon at like 3 p.m. for the next day. So it's all daily. Everything we do is daily. So as long as your technicians
finish their route, they should make their bonus every 2
weeks. I'd say they make it 80% of the time.
And then if they want to pick up extra work, maybe you have someone else
Saturday.
route. Yeah, I got you.
Saturdays are always available to spray. We never work Sundays.
I see.
But if they want to make extra money, or if there's a rain out, then they can work Saturday too. So that's kind of how they.
But if they want to make extra money, they can work on Saturday too.
Yep.
Cool. And that way they're getting an extra percent or maybe 2% if they hit their goals.
Yep. Plus they're getting overtime probably.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the pay performance does too. It it pushes them a little bit harder to make a little bit more money. And 10 times out of 10, the way our model runs, like even if they have a bunch of overtime, they're still going to get paid more in performance anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I really love that. And it was a challenge like first time. I'm not going to lie. Like the first 2 weeks to a month were brutal when we first started. Like trying to figure it out, pissed off people. I remember like the first time we did it, there was a holiday day in there. Again, something we should have thought of, but we didn't. Mm-hmm. So the next week, even though they didn't work that day, the pay performance made it look like it was a lot less because they're missing the day. They're like, oh, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, crap.
It's a culture change.
Like, yeah, it is. And then, but what it did do is got the people who weren't willing to push it and like be a really good employee, like it took them out of the picture. Like they just
smokes them out. Yep.
Yeah. They're like, this is not for me.
Wow.
But what it did, so you have an employee who's been there for 3 years, an employee been there for 6 months, or let's say 5 years and a year, like, just because that person's been there longer doesn't necessarily mean he should make more money. I remember working back in the day, I was in the carpenters union, and I'm not bashing anyone that's in the laborers union or carpenters union, like that's awesome. There was a guy named Dale there that was been there for 25 years. Great at his job. Great. But was so lazy it drove me nuts. And I'm this young kid, 21, 22 years old, busting my ass, being the grunt, blah, blah, blah. And this dude's making $30 an hour more than me. I'm like, when I own my business someday, I'm never going to allow that in my company ever. Like, I don't care if you've been working here for 10 years or 3 years. You should, the best worker wins. So it's capitalism at its finest, right? Like in our company, that's capitalism at its finest. And that's what I wanted. So I wanted to make sure that the person who worked the hardest got incentivized the most.
I like it.
Yes, it took some time to figure it out. But once we got it dialed in, I'd never go back. Ever.
I will highly consider moving that direction.
Yeah, and that's just why we did it. And like that was my backstory of like why it was so important to me. Like I have to figure this out.
No seniority.
And so like there's ways to get more percentage, right? Like over time and reviews and certain things. Like they have metrics they have to hit, and more tests, more certifications, blah blah blah. But so they can still get paid more per se percentage. It just takes them a little bit longer to get there. So it kind of fixes both of those for us anyway.
I love it.
So, but like from day one, like say they come in, they have the career path from day one to starting out as a technician all the way up to operations or branch manager or partner. Like from the day that they start with us, they know exactly the steps that they have to do and take to get to own their own company someday with us.
I love that.
And same thing on the technician, same thing on the sales side. So if the sales side, hey, I want to be a partner, they have to do X, Y, Z over the next period of time, and then they can go launch their own company or their own franchise or whatever we do. You
really lay out the growth ladder. I love it.
We do. And so like from the day that they walk in, they can see it. So if they want to like fast start and really crush their goals, like they could do it in a year or 2 years if they wanted to, or they could take 5 years. And so it doesn't matter how long it takes them, but as long as they accomplish those goals, they can do it.
It's clearly laid out.
That was another life-changing moment in our business. Like you get these really, really, really good people, especially in our industry, Rob, where you get a really good technician or a really good person who mows lawns, listen to this, or a really good pest control technician, whatever that may be. What are they going to do? They're going to be like, oh, I see what I'm making on this route. Like, I can do this. And they go start their own. Cool. Yep. We'll help you. Let's do this together. We already have the infrastructure built out. We have all the SOPs. We have the branding. Let's do it together. Well, now you just take one of the best technicians that's going to go be your rival is now a partner with you somewhere else.
I love it. It's very, very wise.
So that's, what's really changed our business dramatically in the past 3 years. Just having those growth.
Keep your rock stars.
Plans. Yep, absolutely. And whether that's in the office, whether that's, a franchisee, whether it's a partner, like they all have a growth pattern, like to have a piece of the pie somewhere.
Love it.
So that was a long-winded answer, but you got me chatting now.
It's good stuff, man. I should be taking notes here. I'll definitely listen to the podcast again and take notes there.
For sure. What does the future look like for you, Rob? I know you have a lot of stuff going on. I know you talked about the next 20, 30 years. You're going all in on the coaching thing, but what about your personal life and what about the landscape business? What's your plan with that?
It's a good question. The landscaping business, I hope to continue to grow it. I have actually just engaged an external marketing company for the first time ever. They're starting in a week. I've been vetting them for a while. They've been courting me for a while. It's been like this love dance. So that, I believe, will be the beginning of something pretty transformational. I feel like I've kind of hit a ceiling with all the marketing efforts that we've been doing. Like, kind of hit diminishing marginal returns as Facebook gets more expensive and these kinds of things. Yeah. So bringing them on, I think, can really take us to the next level. I want to really be the dominant player in the fertilization weed control world in the Baton Rouge area and in the outer areas. We're already probably the biggest or one of the biggest in our market. I don't know what everybody's client count is, but I could just concede number of trucks, and I'm like, okay. But I want to continue to really own that space and to have the majority of our business revenue come from that. I'd like to have a satellite location. It doesn't necessarily need to be an office, but it needs to have, trucks and that kind of thing and a fill station. So that's the future. Growing. I'd like us to be, I'd like to double or triple our revenue from where we are now. And, but I'm not in a hurry to do that, right? I'm not trying to double the company overnight. And my main motivation, I'll be honest, for growing the company is not personal finances. It's to keep my team engaged, right? So I'm pretty happy right now. Financially, I'm good. Lifestyle is good. Everything's good. But I know that if I want to keep a good leadership team, we have to be growing, right? We have to be growing. We have to be scaling. We have to have exciting things for them to move towards and more money and more opportunity. And so I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for my leadership team. And so I want them to be a part of something that's building, that's growing, that's changing, that's dynamic. And so that's why I'm doing it, because I don't get to live my life if I don't have this great team. So I'm growing it so that they can hit their personal goals, so they can pay off their houses, so they can do the kind of things they've been wanting to do. So it's about supporting them and setting them up for success as they've done for me. It's kind of like okay, y'all did it for me, let me do this for y'all. So that's kind of my mindset and my motivation behind growing it.
It's fantastic. 2 books that you would recommend that everyone should read.
So I think we kind of touched on them both already. Traction and Good to Great. Those are probably my 2 favorite business books.
I think I've read Traction 6 times.
I've read it 5. It's so good. And Good to Great is I've read it 3. And
I've only read it once. Now I'm thinking this is the second time it's been brought up in the past couple of weeks. I'm like, God, I got to go back and read that book.
Oh man, Jim Collins, man, it's really good stuff. When I read a book, or I'll often listen, I'll take a bunch of notes on my phone. So I'll be taking constant notes of nuggets. Let me not forget. I hate it when you finish a book and you're like, oh, that was good. People ask you, how was your vacation? Oh, it was good. It's like, no. How did that experience or that book? What are you going to take away from it and use in your life or your business or whatever now? So I do that on vacations, dude. I write down what we did each day. I'll take a little note so I can remember what happened. Because I hate waking up in the morning and you forget 80% of what happened the day before. I hate that. So I try to write down everything, man.
Yeah, and I'm going through all the Dan Kennedy books, like all the old marketing books from like the 80s and 90s. Like
it's good.
So
it's old school truth, man. Yeah, it's good.
Man, it's good. Like I read something today. It was like, make the offer so good they feel stupid saying no. I'm like, wait, that just got regurgitated by someone else. It's super popular right now, you know? Like, it just goes back to Dan. Everything seems to go back to Dan Kennedy, a few of those guys. And JP, our mentor, he's like, that's where he learned all his marketing skills. Like, so I've been going through all the no BS stuff and all the marketing. It's solid.
It's good.
Yeah. What are you most proud of?
In business?
Let's go both.
I think in business is the fact that I have been able to move, that I have been able to like move 700 miles away. That I'm probably most proud of. The fact that I have a team that I trust so much that I don't have to be there every day. So I'm proud of the fact that I found them, I've kept them. They like their jobs. They're happily employed. They enjoy the work. It's like one big family. So I'm proud that I've been able to find and build that team that I trust so much. Personally, I think I'm most proud probably of my marriage. I'll be honest. I have a really good marriage. I found an amazing woman at a bar in January of 2014. And we've built something incredible. And we've got three little, manifestations of it now running around our house. And well, 2 we're in school right now. But, we've built something incredible. We're living our dream life now together. We've got a strong marriage that's mired in vulnerability and honesty and truth and passion and adventure. And
so you have core values to your family.
Well, I don't know that they're written down per se, but they're understood. And so those are the things that we really value and that keep us together. And we're always talking about the future or what's our next travel plan. I mean, one of our big travel plans, we plan to take a 1-year long trip. In 3 years around the world for 1 year, maybe
incredible. 3
to 4 weeks per country. And so like, we're really excited about that. That's kind of our BHAG coming up, 1 year trip and hopefully with another couple. So, I'm kind of a crazy ambitious dude when it comes to adventure and travel.
For sure. How important was EOS to all this?
Very.
To your leadership team and the move.
So I self-implemented for a while. I have an actual paid implementer who is in place right now. We started that in September. So our next quarterly comes up in a few weeks in October. Very important. I would say it would be very challenging to have the kind of leadership team and make the sort of progress and traction that we've made, no pun intended with that word, if we hadn't followed the tenets of traction and EOS. It's been very helpful and hopefully will continue to guide us well.
That's awesome. Love that. Again, same for us. When I self-implemented probably 3-4 years ago as well, we have a hired implementer because we had none. But I actually just got in contact with one that's out of, that flies up to Milwaukee. They said by next year that he would actually fly into Milwaukee and then drive up to Appleton to meet with us. So I'd say the next year we'll have an implementer as well. So we're looking forward to that too,
Yeah,
we self-implement really well, but and I think they can do it via Zoom now too, but we wanted someone in person, kind of hold us accountable a little bit more.
If you're going to pay that kind of money, they should be in person.
Yeah, and I agree. So that's kind of like our next move too, is we're kind of spread out too. So we'd all have to come in and meet. Some of our people are just, virtual too, like even in our leadership team that live in Atlanta or Boston or wherever, but it's been really good. So having everyone come there for a quarterly meeting would be good as well, just for that.
Good for culture. Yep.
Yeah. I think the last question I have for you, Rob, is just I know we talked about the future of what your person look like and about the business, but when you think about your personal life and the coaching thing, where do you see it in 5 years? What do you see you doing in 5 years?
It's a great question. It's funny because the future kind of looks almost like blank because I've worked so hard to get to this point and I'm like, what do I do now? I think coaching, what I'd like for it to look like and what it very well may look like is I have more clients than I can handle myself, and having a coach or two, who's under me, who works with me alongside me, and we're coaching together. So I do think that coaching has real merit. I'm just kind of testing the waters now, and like, I'm not being real aggressive with it. I'm not like spending marketing dollars. I'm just taking on people as they call. And you want to be a client? Be a client. You know, let's do this. So I'm personally not going to take on, you know, so many that I lose my work-life balance thing.
For sure.
But I do hope that it becomes something where, I mean, it's all about multiplication, right? How many business owners can I help? It's not about how much money I can make from it. It's about how many businesses can I impact and help, because I know the need. And so, I don't know if I'll stay just in the landscaping world, or like I said, service industries, or just open up to all sorts of things. Also, probably we'll do some quarterlies and stuff like that, and do some more involved stuff than just right now. It's 2 calls, 45 minutes a month, but we will probably migrate to some on sites and some things like that. It will probably evolve as we bring larger clients on and they want a leadership team, coach, that kind of thing. It could turn into that. I'm kind of open to it, but I really want to help small businesses and small business owners get their life back, and with scale. That sounds really great.
That's awesome. Well, you guys heard it here first. Rob Treppendahl, like, go check it out. He's a stud of a guy. Again, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for taking time with us today. And again, I appreciate your friendship, and I hope we stay in touch.
It's been great to connect, Jonas.
Yeah, you too. And when you get your podcast up and rolling, I'd love to help you out on that side too.
Okay, great.
Cool, man. Well, good talking to you.
You too, Jonas.
See you.
See you, buddy.